Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out yet another of these Takara Tomy Jurassic World figures. This was from the last round that was released last year in 2021, and didn't get around to getting a hold of a lot of them until just recently. I've been wanting to get a hold of them, I just haven't done it, and just recently I was able to acquire the Spino and the Amargasaurus, and I was so blown away by those two figures that I was just intent on getting a hold of many of the others. So again, we now have the Stegosaurus to take a look at as well, and it looks really nice. I'm actually a huge fan of what I can see here on this particular Stegosaurus, and much better than, again, a lot of the older Takara Tomy figures. I feel like they've just improved so drastically, it's quite insane. But as far as the packaging art goes, you can see on the front here we have the Jurassic World logo, the Takara Tomy logo, as well as some images of the Stegosaurus, and then, of course, the species title there kind of hiding behind the Stegosaurus itself. Up here on the top, another close-up view of the head sculpt, and then also an area here showing off some of the articulation. Here on the side, again, the articulation is shown off. And then over here, we have an image that shows off a ton of the different Jurassic World figures that Takara Tomy has released. There are a few I still need to get a hold of. Not too many, honestly. The only ones I could see in here that I think I still need would be Owen, that Rex, and the Pteranodon, potentially. I'm pretty sure I have everything else that's in that image, and then, of course, another image on the back of the Stegosaurus. So let's go ahead, pop this open, and check it out. And here is our Stegosaurus, and wow, this is absolutely beautiful. This one here might actually be my maybe second favorite, I would say, of these newer figures. I think the Spinosaurus at this point holds my favorite spot, but this one here would be a toss-up between the Amargasaurus and this Stegosaurus as far as what my second favorite would be. It's a very nice-looking Stego, really nicely replicating both the Jurassic World style, but also that Lost World Jurassic Park kind of style of a Stegosaurus, and again, extremely highly detailed when it comes to the sculpt, and the paint job also doesn't look too bad. Like, the head specifically looks really nice as far as how precise the eye paint is and how vibrant the detail overall is on the figure. So let's go ahead, jump straight to a closer look, and you can see that for yourself. So starting up here at the head sculpt, look at how beautiful that head sculpt is. Like, it is so small, but the detailing is insane. You can see the nostrils look very nice as far as the sculpt goes. You can see the beak of the Stegosaurus as well as the mouth very nicely sculpted. The eye as well is so small, but, you know, placed pretty nicely. We have a yellow eye with a black pupil. You can also see in general, like, the texturing looks really good. As far as the skin goes, the structure of the head also looks beautiful. Up here on the top, again, very nicely done when it comes to a detailing standpoint. That is an extremely small Stegosaurus head. You can see fits in my one finger, but it is extremely highly detailed. And the paintwork also looks pretty good, as we have two different variations of green there. In the face, we have a lighter green and then a darker green as we transition to the top of the head, which also looks very nice. As you move back into the neck, you can see some very nice tensing in the neck of the Stegosaurus. You can also actually, on your way back to the neck, you can pick out the ear right there of the Stegosaurus. But again, the skin detail and everything in the neck region looks great. Very smooth transition from the lighter green to the darker green as you lead up there to the back of the neck, up toward the plates. And you can also see that the throat is nicely sculpted out. We have a very nice light green, actually, for the lower part of the throat, the underside of the Stegosaurus. The plates also sport some beautiful detailing, although it's not quite as great on these smaller plates as you see up here. But once you get up a little higher and the plates increase in size, you can see from a detailing standpoint, they look fantastic. I really would have liked to have seen the plates painted with a brown, but we just have this kind of darker green that just basically runs through here and then highlights the upper part of the back, but also up into the plates. And although it, isn't my first choice, it still looks pretty good, honestly. That coloration definitely looks pretty nice. You can see some immense muscle definition in this front leg. Like, that is an absolutely jacked leg of the Stegosaurus. As you move down into the foot sculpt also looks great. You have some nice creasing there in the wrist as well as the elbow present, and again, that muscle definition, I honestly just can't get over how nice and jacked that front leg of the Stegosaurus is. The nails are painted on this, unlike the recent Sinoceratops we had taken a look at. The nails have a nice kind of an off-white paint to them, which definitely adds some more of an appealing appearance to the figure. And as you move up here into the stomach region, you can see that the skin texture looks great. Really big stomach that we have here for our Stegosaurus. Like, we have a lot of open area here to take a look at it, and you can also see some slight girth. Like, it's not fat or anything like that. It's not overweight, but it definitely does have a little bit of a belly. You can see right there as we turn it, definitely has a small belly on it. And you can also see again that the skin texture goes from a lot of like creasing and wrinkles as you move up further to a larger scaling, which is also very reminiscent to a Jurassic Park or Jurassic World style Stegosaurus. As you move back here into the rear of the dinosaur, you can see the hip bone protruding again very nicely from the skin, as well as some nice muscle definition in the thigh. You can see the skin pulling off of the back of the tail there, as well as a lot of wrinkling here in front of the thigh. So they've done a good job again on the skin detail of their figures, which they've been really, really good at lately. You can see the kneecap is present here on the front of the leg, and then moving down into that foot. Again, the rear foot also looks quite nice. We have some, again, nicely painted nails back there. The muscle tone looks great in the calf, and there's some nice creasing again in the back of the knee. And then as you move up here, you can continue to see how those plates look excellent the entire way through as you lead out into the tail. Of course, we pick up on those very large Takara Tomy ball joints that, some people hate, some people don't mind. I personally don't mind them. They've kind of become part of their charm, but of course I would prefer it without them. But again, you can see that the tail, the majority of the tail, becomes more of that darker green as you lead out here. Like, it completely engulfs those plates on that part of the tail, and then the majority of the tail is that darker green. But you can also, again, see how nice the skin texture is. Like, for the size of the figure, the detailing is off the charts, as well as just how vibrant that detailing is. And then you lead out here to the tip of the tail. You can see the thagomizers are painted with an off-white or a light gray, like an off-white, almost has like a slight tint of green to it. But you can as well see that the thagomizers do sport some pretty nice detailing within. You can kind of like pick up on some cracks and crevices within the thagomizers. And then over here you can see that the Stegosaurus looks really good as far as the head sculpt. Very nice, very precise paintwork again for that eye with the yellow and the black pupil. And then as you move back along the figure, you'll notice that it's really not too different on this side compared to the initial side. You can see from up above, we have a straight facing shot of the head, like the head doesn't have any kind of a turn or anything. It's just sticking straight out. The legs as well aren't in any type of a dramatic different positioning. It seems as though maybe the Stegosaurus has just taken a minute to look around. It's just stopped and standing there. All four of the legs are planted, and you can see that the front two legs are almost in the same positioning. The right leg is just a little bit further forward, and then over here the left leg is a little bit further forward than the right leg. The only difference you might be able to see maybe a little more creasing in the stomach region on this side because the leg is pushing into the body a little bit right there. But you can continue to see again that as far as every aspect that we had taken a look at on the first side, it follows through here to this side. Gorgeous looking sculpt, beautiful, very vibrant detailing throughout. Very nice leg sculpt. Again, the foot looks great. The nails are painted very nicely. Same deal for the rear leg. A little sloppiness it looks like on that nail, but it's not too bad. It's not all that much sloppiness. And again, the plates look incredible from every angle, honestly. The sculpt of this is so super nice. It really makes me want to buy a second to give it that Lost World Jurassic Park paint application. I feel like it would look really, really nice with that paint scheme. And although it kind of almost sort of has like a Lost World style paint scheme, because at least it has the tones of green, it's still pretty far off from what a Lost World Jurassic Park Stegosaurus would look like color-wise. But the sculpt, again, is phenomenal. The underside looks incredibly nice. Again, very nice paintwork as well. And you can also see that the Stegosaurus kind of has like a little bit of a pot belly here, and that's something that you can often associate with a Jurassic Park style Stegosaurus as well. So as far as this figure goes, it is a phenomenal looking Stegosaurus and definitely one of my favorites from the Takara Tomy line overall. Now, as far as articulation goes on our Stegosaurus, there is not much at all, and all you really have are two different areas in the tail that you can articulate the tail to kind of give it maybe like a swinging feature for the Stegosaurus to protect itself. But I think if we could turn the ball joint, it's tough to do this. If you could turn the ball joint, it would probably work better, because right now the tail can go up and it can go down. Like you can see, you can really display the tail nicely as far as that goes. But if we can turn this ball joint a little bit, because the ball joint itself will move if you can get it over there. You just have to work it over to that side, or even the other way actually. But once you get it turned sideways, you can then articulate the tail to, go to the side to make it look like it's defending itself. Same deal for this one here. You'd probably have to turn that which it keeps following it as I go there. It keeps following it, but there you can kind of get like that nice movement of the Stegosaurus defending itself. So you have two different areas of articulation in the tail. Both can swivel and both, are ball joints, so you can articulate the tail pretty nicely. It's just not incredible because there's only that one little area of articulation. But as far as a length goes, if we pick that tail up a little bit, for a length from the tip of the tail to the front of the Stegosaurus and the snout, you're looking at about 4 3/4 inches, or right around 12.5 centimeters, roughly, somewhere in that vicinity. And then for a height, you're looking at about 2.5 inches or 6.5, just a little under actually 6.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, here are our usual review comparison suspects, as we have Mr. Peppo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, in comparison to our exceptionally small Takara Tomy Stegosaurus. This one really looks small, and I feel like it's almost maybe even a little smaller than your casual Takara Tomy figure. Maybe. It'll be tough to tell until we bring in some more, but you can see again, in comparison to these guys, regardless, it is still a very small size, which in the world of Takara Tomy, I always feel like it makes the figures even more impressive, because now you can really see how impressive the size of the figure is and the detail that goes with it. And then for our usual Takara Tomy comparison suspects, we'll bring in the last few figures that we have reviewed as far as the Takara Tomy line goes. The Spinosaurus is like always tricky because every time I put him down, his legs move. So then every time I bring him back in, I have to figure out where the positioning of the legs goes for him to stand. There we go. It's always a little tricky to figure out where it is, but there is a comparison between the Stegosaurus and the Spinosaurus, again giving you a rough idea of the size. The Stego is definitely a little bit, I think, on the smaller side in comparison to your usual Takara Tomy figures. There is the T-Rex in comparison to the Stegosaurus. This is the older Jurassic World T-Rex, which I think looks pretty nice, but I'm honestly really interested in seeing the newer one because I feel like the newer one looks far more accurate than the older one. And then we've also got the Sinoceratops, which we have recently reviewed, and they're fairly similar in size, honestly, so they're not too far off. Maybe it's just the herbivores, I guess, are a little smaller. And then we've also got ourselves the Amargasaurus. So maybe it's just the Sinoceratops and the Stegosaurus are just a little smaller than these others that I have here, so it kind of makes it feel like it's a little bit smaller than your average Takara Tomy figure. Or maybe these ones that I keep comparing it with, like the Rex, the Spino, and the Amargasaurus, are just a little bigger than your average Takara Tomy figure. Regardless, hopefully these figures in comparison will give you a rough idea of the size. So now we are quite a few figures into the Takara Tomy Jurassic World line, and I am loving every one of these figures. I'm very interested in getting a hold of the final few that I do not have, which would be the Tyrannosaurus Rex. I also need to get, there's like a Baby Blue, a Pteranodon, a Dimorphodon. There's a few, out there. Stygimoloch, I believe I don't have that one yet. So definitely got to get a hold of the remaining few that I don't have, because these figures are actually really quite awesome. And having the collection of them here and growing day by day when it comes to these Takara Tomy releases, I am really loving this Jurassic World line because the figures are extremely highly detailed. They're nice and compact size, like they're smaller so they don't take up too much room. And in my opinion, they're just as beautiful, if not more beautiful, than a lot of the Mattel counterparts. So a very cool line to collect if you can get past those ball joints on these figures, which some people absolutely hate. But again, I feel like it's part of the Takara Tomy charm when it comes to those ball joints. But this Stegosaurus, again, is extremely nicely done. Super impressive detailing throughout. Extremely nice skin detail. Again, like they've been doing with a lot of their figures recently, just hammering out skin wrinkles and skin folds galore. Very vibrant scale detail and beautiful skin texture throughout the entire figure. The plates are extremely well done from a detailing standpoint, even having like slight imperfections in certain places of the plates, so adding elements of realism into the figure as well. The sculpt is extremely appealing to look at when it comes to looking like a Jurassic World or Jurassic Park style Stegosaurus. I feel like they definitely did a good job of replicating that, and it really does look almost identical, I think, to a Jurassic Park or Jurassic World Stegosaurus. The only thing is maybe the Thagomisers look like they might be a little bit too thick, but I think that's just due to the toy nature, the toy aspect of the figure. But again, the sculpt is phenomenal. The paintwork is okay. It's nothing incredible, but there's some nice different variations of greens included, and it looks nice and natural. The actual application of the paint is pretty nice as well. Some areas extremely nice, like the placement of the eyes. When those eyes are so tiny, they have done a good job of applying the eye paint and the pupil paint, so that is a huge plus. And then on top of everything, you have some nice articulation. Again, nothing incredible, but two areas in the tail which can give you that defensive Stegosaurus pose that you would like to probably see on a Stegosaurus figure, so that as well is, a pretty decent plus. So as a whole, this is definitely one of the best Takara Tomy figures I think I've seen. Definitely up there when it comes to my favorites, very much so rivaling the Amargasaurus. So if you are interested in this, I will include a link in the description to where you can head on over to AliExpress and pick this up for yourself, because that is where I purchased mine. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.